Hi, this is Rishabh Rajan for Ask.Audio, reviewing the Akai MPC Live. There have been so many iterations of the MPC released by Akai in the past few years, but this in a very long time is the first standalone version. But it can also run as a controller for the software. It is powered by a multi-core system with 16 gigabytes of internal storage. It comes preloaded with 10 gigabytes of content, which includes some of the classic MPC sounds. Connectivity options are great. You can plug in external hard drives or MIDI controllers to the USB ports. There's an SD card input, 2 MIDI in and MIDI out ports. You get line and phono level sampling inputs and a bunch of outputs as well. The 16 backlit RGB pads are as great as always. You still have the 4 banks of touch-sensitive Q-Link dials. So other than it being standalone and having its own internal battery, the MPC Live is very similar to the MPC Touch. Let's see what we get inside the box. There's this nice chart here that explains all the connectivity as well as the software options. You get this quick start guide, and I like that they've included this microfiber cleaning cloth. That touchscreen can get smudgy really quick. USB cable and power cable, and of course the power brick. And lastly, the MPC Live itself. Now there's so many music making possibilities with this device. With its sequencing capabilities, sampling capabilities, with the new audio tracks feature, automation features, and that list goes on. So let's now check out some of those possibilities. After powering the device, you need to tap and hold start, and then you will be presented with this template window. The templates are a great starting point as they have preloaded samples, instruments, and also sequences. So once I load this Deep House template, I can just hit play and hear a demo sequence using all the sounds in that particular template. This is the main window. This is the grid view. You can tap menu here and access a whole bunch of other options. Let's open the channel mixer so you can see which tracks are playing. So in this demo sequence, I can tap here and look at all the different tracks that are available. And these are the different sounds of those tracks. But of course, we can create our own sequence by just tapping here and selecting a new unused sequence. Now I can just select a track, hit record, and start sequencing. I like how you can change the sound of the pattern by just swapping out the sound with any of the other loaded instruments. Now you don't have to start from a template. You can actually tap here and load an empty project. So now you're starting completely from scratch. So you can create up to 128 possible sequences. Each sequence can have up to 128 tracks. There are 4 different track types. This one has drum programs. This one can have key group programs. This is a clips program, which are pre-sequenced patterns that can be triggered in time. You also get MIDI programs to sequence external hardware. There is a CV program option in the software, but this is not available on the MPC Live hardware. I'll open the browser and let's look for some content. As you can see, it's organized by types. We're looking at drums right now. So I can select one and click this play to audition the sound. For the key group programs, you have instruments here. These can be sequenced with the pads or even using an external MIDI controller. You can load the sound by hitting that load button. So now, if I go back to the main menu, I can tap in the programs category here and look for the sounds I just loaded in. Now, other than using the internal content, we can also sample external content. So I have my iPhone connected to the sampling inputs on the MPC. I have a song ready to go. I'll tap menu here, access the sampler. Here I can select the inputs, set my threshold for sampling, and just arm the track and play the external audio. So now this sample can be loaded into a specific kit, or you can even choose to load it into a completely new program. So I'll select program 1 here. I'll tap assign to pad, tap a pad. And now I can go back to the main, scroll down to programmer 1, and that pad will trigger the sample. You can ignore that crackle, it was from my audio interface. Now we can open the sample editor, and with the touch screen we can really fine-tune our edits on the sample. You can use the Q-Link dials to fine-tune your selection. The touchscreen helps a lot when you want to zoom in or zoom out. As you go lower on those Q-Link dials, you get even finer resolution. If you hit trim here, you switch to chopping mode. You have a few different modes to chop the audio. I'll choose the threshold option. And now we have a bunch of slices that we can trigger with the different pads. When I'm happy with this, I can hit Shift and Convert and save this in a different location as a new instrument. Lots of different options here. I'm going to choose New Drum Program using slices. So now going back to the main window, I can scroll through the programs and find this new program that I just created. Alright, so I'm going to sequence some drums before I use this sample. I'll set the sequence to 4 bars. I'm going to change the tempo to 90 BPM. And now I'll sequence in the drum part. Now the reason why it's perfectly in time is because quantization is on. We have a few different options here. You can set your strength to a lower value so you can get a little bit of the original feel in there. And of course there's a different time division options. I'm now sequencing that sampled instrument. We can now go into the grid editor and fine-tune the sequence. Again, here the touchscreen really helps. I'm using the zoom tool right now, but you have a bunch of other tools here. There's a selector tool to select multiple notes. I can nudge the selection. I can choose don't snap and nudge it off the grid. Play with the start and end times. There's even a velocity option, so you can adjust the velocity of individual notes. Now for this sequence, I like the first 2 bars that I sequenced in, so I want to discard the rest of it. I can go back to the main, and I can change the length from sequence to a specific bar value, like for example 2 beats. So each track can have its own length independent of the sequence length. Let's try 4 beats. That sounds pretty cool, so we can keep that. Let's load in a key group instrument. In the browser, I'll select instruments here. I'm going to search for keys. So any instrument that has the keyword key will show up. I can preview them. And once I'm happy with the sound, I can just select load. Now back in the main window, on a new track, I can select the key group instrument. Now it can be a bit hard to sequence an instrument like this on pads, but we do have a chord trigger option. So back in the main menu, I'll tap this pad perform option, and here we can select chords. So when I tap one pad, I'm triggering an entire chord. You have different scale options. You can change the root. You can even choose specific chord progressions. Okay, so now I'm going to sequence this in. We can do some basic level adjustments in the channel mixer window. For big dial here also acts as a selector as it's a push button dial. The selected program shows up on the left here, and you can see the insert effects that are loaded in. I just made those drums a bit softer. I can solo the program here, though you can also do that in the main window. Let's go into the effects and add in another effect here on that fourth slot. And now we can browse through all these internal effects. Hit the pencil tool to access the parameters on the effects. You can use the touchscreen to change the parameters or even the Q-Link tiles. Let's now check out the XY effects. Right now it's not been loaded on to this program, but I can just say insert XY effects. So by default, the XY effects uses this beat repeater effect. Let's try it out. It can be a lot of fun to play around with this. We can also go into the setup and change out the effect. You again get a bunch of different options here. I don't think you can change what the X and Y controls for each effect. They seem to be pre-assigned, but the parameters are the obvious ones. So that's a very quick look at some of the possibilities on the MPC Live. There's so much more happening in here. To learn more about the MPC Live, check out the Ask.Audio Academy courses. Once again, this is Rishabh Rajan signing off. I'll see you in the next one.